Today's guest is Gary Langis, who has gone from saving lives off the streets of Boston to lobbying for life-saving programs in Washington, D.C. It was my honor to interview this inspirational man, and you are here for another great episode of Out of the Blue. Hey,
Hey,
Gary,
what's up?
how you doing? Nice to see you.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Sam,
Hi.
this is Gary Langis, and
Hi, Sam.
this is Sam, and she's out in California right now, and we
And
are
where are you in California?
Los Angeles, Koreatown, actually.
My daughter's out there,
Oh,
and
nice.
my granddaughter, and another granddaughter goes to school out there, and a great grandson. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
family in L.A.
You got
Cool.
a
They did
rock
it.
group out there. You got about 6 people.
Yeah,
Oh, that's sick.
yeah,
So anyway,
yeah.
let's start our show with you sharing with us your your most significant out of the blue event. I mean, I know there's going to be a few, but most significant, the one that really kind of like made your life, impacted your life, brought you to your knees, or just made you change your life in a direction wise.
Yeah, it's like, I grew up in the 60s. It was like, just a time where we did a lot of like, yeah, we just like, it was a lot of freedom when we grew up. We were getting out of the 50s. The 50s was like stagnant. It was like, like there wasn't much change. It was all the same, it seemed. And then into the 60s, it started to get, I started probably hanging around with a different whole group of folks, and I got into the like just hanging around the coffee houses, the beatnik days, and then the hippie days and all of that good stuff, like that was my life for a long time. And as that went along, of course drugs were involved in those years. That's when drugs really hit the scene, and we started to use a lot of drugs. And so years later, like 25 years later, 30 years later, here I am, I'm 40 years old. I'm like, I've been in and out of drug use, like particular drug, I've used alcohol, heroin, different types of drugs, that they were really like, yeah, they hold you prisoner. And, I got to the point one day I was like, um, I was raising my 3 children. Um, my wife was HIV positive. Um, and I was just at the end of the road, like I was ready to take a gun and just like stick it in my mouth, and I just made one more reach out. I reached out to this person, and she was like my son's case manager, social worker, whatever. And she helped me get into a place, and my life started to change. Things, that was the day I just, like it just came to me, like, it was like either go, like either go or stay and like, try to change my life, and I just had to change my life. And I didn't know what I had to change, you know. So I was going into this blind, just blinded. And things happen like, of course, I got into this, abstinent-based recovery, doing the 12-step thing, and like all of those things, like that we do when we're trying to stop using drugs. And like I was, God, that was like 35 years ago, probably something like that, 34 years ago. And I've had my ups and downs in recovery. I've gotten different, like I have different attitudes toward a lot of things now. And the main thing back then is like, one of the things driving my drug use was the pain I was in. I was in a lot of physical pain from my work because I was a laborer, and I really couldn't do that work anymore. And I'm saying, what am I going to do? And a friend of mine just said, one day he says, we do outreach, HIV prevention outreach. You want to come with us? And like I said, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that, but seeing that my wife was like, positive, HIV positive, like like I went for it, like, and I went out with them, and it was something I fell in love with, like doing that, working with that population of folks that had their HIV positive, people that use drugs, people that working in the sex industry, all kinds of folks, like it was just like I worked with, all kinds of people, and that's what I've done for the last 35 years, like that's what I've done, and like I never went back to labor work, and one thing just things just lead on, and like I guess like I was pretty good doing what I did, and so I started to manage programs. uh, I think the first program I managed was an advocacy program for people with HIV and AIDS and substance use disorders, right? I was a manager of 5 case managers. We have 5 case managers that would work with all of these folks um, throughout the Boston area, Roslindale, Dorchester, but all over Boston. We worked in the welfare offices, and what we had to do is help these folks walk their way through getting disability, getting benefits, and it was Social Security benefits. So we'd take the application, we'd bring the applications down to the Social Security office, wait in line, like submit their claim, and then if they got denied, we file like what they call a reconsideration, and would follow them right through, even if they went before a judge. We'd represent them before a judge. So we were like, their advocates before administrative law judges, and it was really good. We got a lot of people on benefits, and that were well deserving of benefits, and we never lost a case
Wow,
at that level, at the administrative judge level. We had to appeal it a couple of times maybe, but we never lost the case. And
that says a lot.
after that, yeah, it was like fantastic, and I love doing the work, like, and it was like, you meet so many people from all walks of life, and I worked in the homeless unit. So like I work in the welfare department. It was at 600 Washington Street in Boston, which was right in the corner of the combat zone in Chinatown, and so I'd had that tough group, and I used to go to like junkyards, people living in cars in the junkyard or trucks, and do applications there, go out in the Boston Common, like it was like really going out, searching for people that we knew they were they were in our system, but like they disappear, like there were people that
Yeah,
they just didn't stay around, so we had to like search them down. And yeah, I did that for like 5 years, and then I started to run a program up on the North Shore around HIV prevention. Yeah, just prevention work with people who use drugs mostly. That was my thing, like I'd work with people who use drugs, syringe exchange, um,
that's a powerful move there too. I
all of
mean,
those things. Yeah, and the syringe exchange, I worked in that all along. Even though I was working at the welfare department, like I did that on the side. So I started doing that in like shoot in the 80s. I started doing that,
right. Oh
and
boy. Hmm.
it was all illegal. It was all like illegal, like like cops were chasing us all the time, and
Yeah.
shit, they caught up to a couple of us, and know, and they put us on trial. They'd arrest us, put us on trial,
What happened? Did anybody
and
get,
it was a struggle.
would you say you was a lot of people, so many people you helped though, right? I mean, and that has to be the balancing act of that
Yeah.
whole
Oh
situation.
yeah. Yeah. Like I mean, there's people that I worked with 25 years ago that were HIV positive. I still see them today. They're
That's
alive.
beautiful.
They're well. You know. I hired a woman one time, and I just I love, I hire people from all walks of life, and this person she was a waitress at a diner. Um, but I knew, like I heard her story. I know where she really, where she came from, and I said, I said, it might be good if you do some, do some of the work that we do, like come out and work with the people in the sex industry, out in the streets. Um, and and she did, and she was married, and she goes, you know what? She goes, my husband, and like, I'm grateful for you because he's not HIV positive, and he doesn't have hepatitis C because like he got clean syringes from you. And I can
Wow.
remember this kid. He was 15 years old, a young kid. He was just a young kid, right? And I used to have him in my harm reduction groups. We teach people like, communication skills, vein care, HIV prevention, how to access, we had all these different kinds of groups that we used to have for drug users. And we'd get them in there by giving them money. Like I'd go out and I'd write a grant and I'd get money and I'd give them money for attending, and that's a thing that I really advocate for today, like paying people that are using drugs still, but to do some of the work that we do because they do it better than we do. Like if you want to get into the drug using world, is it easier for me as a white, old, geeky white guy or another drug user? It's a drug user because they're in their own network. They hang around
Yeah,
with
oh
each
yeah,
other.
yeah,
You
definitely.
know, so if we can like give them the tools they need to do the work, and then pay them for it, you know what? It works out a lot better. It works out a lot better. We reach a lot of people like that. One of the studies the study I just worked on, we worked with a lot of the syringe exchange programs in Massachusetts, and that's some of the stuff we push peer led, building a peer workforce, building drug users that can do the work. And we had three different programs like in Lawrence, Holyoke, and Gloucester, where we had that where we pay people to distribute naloxone, Narcan,
Prevent overdoses, right?
yeah, to reverse overdoses, and that their programs expanded like 50% when we started doing it like that. Because they were going back to their neighborhoods. They were going back to places we didn't have contact with the folks they had contact with,
Right.
you
It's
know,
amazing. Yeah, it's a great idea.
and and within that, because I think that's how I started. Like I was like shooting dope in the Boston Medical Center. Somebody saw me, they didn't throw me out. The guy gave me an education on HIV, and he supplied some clean syringes to me, and that's how I learned. And what did I do with it? I turn it around, and I'm writing grants, I'm working at these programs, and doing this and that, and the same thing can happen with drug users. So if we just like you keep on investing in them, some of them like they get really attracted to doing good things. Like an addict, like they just want to feel better. They want more. They want, and if they feel good, they want to even feel better. And so like it makes them feel good when they're helping out, and making a difference in their friends' lives. So this is the stuff that we do, and that's my thing now is just building a workforce of drug users, because I think you can start to work with people who are using drugs a lot before they get into like traditional recovery. Do you know what I mean?
I
you
do. I
can
do.
you can you can like you can get them like working on things that it builds, their self-esteem starts to rise, their self-worth starts to show, and they make differences. And sometimes, and a lot of times they start to use less drugs. They start to
Wow.
show up on time, and yeah, so it's really, really, really what I see. It's worth
So it's
investing
like,
in that population.
so like what I hear here, I'm hearing from our out of the blue standpoint. You got your life turned around by stuff and something happened to you. Even I would say the man that gave you the syringes is one of those out of the blue events. I mean, he kind of did something that you didn't expect, and then
No,
and then that was almost like what you're doing with these other people, because you were able to get, wow, he did something good for me. And that plants a
Yeah.
seed, plants a seed. And then you go on to later on as you're in your journey, you got yourself eventually your own sobriety. And then from there, you built on that with more doing good self-esteem building for yourself. Like traditional recovery, I think we all know what that is. It's the 12 steps, it's meetings, it's therapy, all that, and a bag of chips, and some donuts actually, and a coffee, and then maybe cigarettes
Hmm.
to take the place. But it's the stuff that pins that together. It's these relationships they form. I feel like that's
Yeah.
one of the best things I learned from my own recovery. And you said 34, 5 years ago, we're actually about the same birthday in that respect. That's when I kind of laid down
Yeah.
the stuff for the last time and stopped ruining my life. And it was amazing that I felt like when I learned recovery, I did feel was very drawn to helping other people because this is the 12th step. You can't keep it if you don't give it away. And I took the steps very seriously. And I think that's what you did. You've lived your life in the 12th step. Sounds like to me.
Well, that's what, yeah, but it's like I didn't know that when that person, like I didn't know it was going to lead to, not doing drugs. It was going to lead to like a career
Like,
that I needed,
who
like that
would
was
have
going to
thunk
lead.
that? You wouldn't have thunk that.
I didn't think that, like I think about it now, years later, about how like I got better a little bit at a time. Started
That's
feeling
a
good about myself, and that's why I was able to make that decision to call somebody instead of like taking my life.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's one of the biggest lessons everybody can learn is that it all happens a little bit at a time. There is no big eureka. Now I'm all better. That doesn't
No,
happen. I don't know anybody that can say that's real.
no, no,
Maybe
it
in a
doesn't happen
movie,
like that.
maybe TV show, they can turn it around real quick. But in real life, I think that I heard a term once when I was working on some writing about a story, a script, and the term I was reading, it was in the course learning about it, and it said consolidated reality. That's basically what all entertainment is. It's consolidated reality. In other words, it's condensed. And people, unfortunately, I think in this world, we expect life to be like TV shows or movies in our mind. It's all condensed. Like they're supposed to be turn a corner and there it is, the bag of gold or something. It doesn't work like that. You
No,
slowly turn the corner. It's a long corner. It's about 5 miles
right?
long corner.
Yeah,
And then by the
and we
time
don't. You don't see what's up above. You don't see what's ahead of you.
you don't
Like a
even
lot.
realize when
You,
you probably
yeah,
didn't. I don't know what you. I think I'm getting a sense that it's happened so slowly. You didn't. You one day you look back and say, "Oh, I have a career doing this."
yeah. No, really. Like shoot. I mean, and of course, like I didn't have. I didn't have resources to go to school to go to further education, even though I probably wouldn't have because like, there were too many drugs involved in my life by the time I was like 18, 19 years old. So I probably wouldn't have gone on to college, but I never got a degree. I never like, I didn't go back to school. I didn't do those things, that a lot of people do. So like I don't have the degrees, but I've managed a lot of programs. I worked in like a Boston Medical Center, like, as like a specialist, working, advising doctors, like really, yeah, it's like, I look around, I said, like, I'm advising docs, like we're sitting around a table and they're asking me questions on how to do this and how to do that, like, and it's just, how do you provide healthcare for people that are resistant to healthcare? That are like out hiding in like that are out in the corners or out in the woods, in encampments. How do you reach those folks,
Oh my
And
gosh!
and like, there's doctors that are starting to do that stuff. We've taught a lot of doctors. They go out like Jesus. There's a doc at MGH in Chelsea or Revere that he goes out. He was going out with my friends, and he'd go down and behind Suffolk Downs, work with people out there, eh, yeah, you know, like he provides services for them, and gradually they come in. They'll come into to his office, you know, but it takes a long time. It takes a time to do that stuff with a lot of folks, and that's what my expertise is. How do you build those relationships with people that are out of the loop, that aren't engaged, that are on you know, they're in margins of society, you know, like how do you engage with those folks, you know, and the big thing is you have to do a lot of listening, you know, you have to listen to them to see what their needs are. And then when you find out their needs, to try to address some of those needs. And that's difficult a lot of times, you know, and it's difficult just to do it out of the blue when you don't know it. Like if you're a doc or something, you know, or you know, you come from, you know, someplace like that, like in an established like hospital, like how do you don't do that, you know, like you don't do that because you're in the hospital, you're doing your job, so you really don't get out there to build relationships with these folks, you know, and it's up to people like myself and other people to do this work that I do, you know, to like make that connections, you know, like now it's happening all over. We have street outreach teams, like there's one in San Francisco I'm really close with. They have like street you know, street people, doctors that are out there, and you know, they go to like the places where people who use drugs go, like the syringe exchange programs. They meet them there, you know, they meet them at these other places, you know, and that's happening all around the country. Just a little, you know, little ways, but that's what it takes. You know, you need to document change and success and show people that this works, to where like, you know what, you don't need these people out there with all these infections all over themselves, losing their limbs. You know, like we can pull these people and connect with them. We can connect with them and give them what they need.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's
Samantha you must see all the homelessness in California, right?
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
lot. It's
yeah.
interesting to hear about like that there are people out there trying to get through to them. I never even thought of that. Do you know if that's happening in Los Angeles or like there are these
Yeah, oh
programs?
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
I have friends in LA that do that work. The people who do that, Samantha, like, you know, like we weren't connected like 35 years ago. I didn't know that people were exchanging syringes in Tacoma, Washington. Like I didn't know any of these people, right? But as we started to get busy and started to like, you know, like we started to hear about each other and we connected, you know, like and there's a harm reduction coalition in the United States that formed back, you know, around the time 1990, 91, like, you know, when I was just starting this work. So they formed, and they have conferences like every 2 years, to where people come from all over the world, you know, like we get together, like, you know, and we last one was down in Puerto Rico, San Juan, you know, we went down to Puerto Rico. There were like a couple of thousand of us. And you know, we have a blast, of course, when we all get together, because I have friends from all over the friggin' world to do this work that I would have never, ever, ever met. You know, I would have never met these folks if I wasn't involved in this type of work. You know, and you know, all of these people that we're working with now, like these doctors we're pulling out in the street, they're getting like, you know, really excited about the harm reduction work, you know, like working with folks. And harm reduction is reducing the consequences of drug use. It's not stopping drug use. We're not going on telling people, listen, you've got to get in recovery, you've got to change your life. We don't tell people that. That's for them. That's for them to, you know, make that move. That's when I made the move. You know, the guy that was giving me the syringes, he didn't say, listen, you should go to a meeting, you should do this, you should do that. I learned that on my own, you know, and you know, I mean, I'm grateful for that dude, but like, you know, as far as, you know, like the recovery world goes, I wasn't introduced that way to recovery. I was, you know, like it was just showing up places, and I started to hear about like, you know, yeah, I can detox. There is like groups out there I can attend, but the network of people that do this work, which is worldwide, you know, we do things like, you know, we introduce syringe exchange, like
Big
Narcan,
one.
like the Narcan that we get that's so common now. That was not like people didn't even know about that. Like I'll say in the 90s, nobody knew about that. Nobody except us. We knew about it. We just didn't know how to get our hands on it, right? So like them groups I was talking about, like that we used to, do trainings for people who use drugs and would train them on overdose prevention. We'd train them on how to recognize an overdose, how to respond, like to see if a person was overdosing, to give them rescue breathing, to call 911, do all these little strategies, like if you call 911, you used to get arrested for it. Like if they show up and you're there, even if you call 911, they'd arrest you. So
Right.
people that were in fear of that, we say, write a note on it, just write heroin overdose and leave the note there. And that's what the stuff we were, taught. And then I met a dude from Chicago, Dan Big. And, I knew him in the harm reduction world, but he started to do a thing, having a doc with him that prescribed Narcan,
On
would
the spot.
prescribe Narcan right on the spot. Like he'd have a van, an outreach van. And, like the doctor would write a prescription. It was a 10 milligram bottle of Narcan. And I got together with him. I think it was probably in the in the 90s, and we figured, like he gave me some, and I brought it back to here to Massachusetts, and then we figured, like we started to like order it from, he started to like order it and send it to us, so we had like fucking crates of it come in, you know, and we started to do it. Like my outreach team would start to do it because I had an organization back then with we were all volunteers, but we'd go out into Lawrence and Lowell and Lynn and do outreach. We do syringe exchange. So we added Narcan to it, right? And we'd train people in Narcan. Like we're going to an encampment. When you distribute Narcan in the encampment, and there's always like somebody that heads these encampments. Like there's always the
The alpha.
yeah, like, and they're in charge of their encampment. So we make sure that they'd have the Narcan, and we train them how to train other people in Narcan, just like how to use Narcan, and we did that for 7 years. All right. And there were a couple of cases where people found like a bag with the Narcan in it, and they were all out of, like they were all bent out of shape. How's this stuff getting on the street? The police started looking for it. Like they were looking for us.
What?
I never got caught with that, but I did. One of the cities we were doing was Cambridge. We were doing trainings over there at the syringe exchange for the drug users that go there, and the board of directors heard about it. And they called us in. They wanted to know, what's behind all of this stuff. Is it legal? And I told them, I said, no, this isn't legal. It's illegal. Um, there's, nobody but us are doing it. We kept data. We kept the reversals because when people come back to get more, they gave us a story of what they used it on.
Save some
Yeah, like
lives. I would, no doubt
yeah,
about
like
it.
we could document saving 300 lives. So what we did, we started to meet with the Boston Health Commission, and they started a pilot program in Cambridge and Boston. And then the next year, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, they duplicated that program. So this is stuff that we were doing, but we turned all our information over to the state and the city, and now it's state run, and like it's like
Wow.
there's hundreds of thousands of people have gotten trained in Narcan. We couldn't do that. We couldn't do that. We had to step back and like let them, because like they have the resources, they have the power, they have the territory, like they have programs in all of these cities around Massachusetts. So it could spread out.
Right.
And so, I helped in the development of that, like they would have been really far behind if we hadn't done that for 7 years, but we had already done it. Like the doctor that runs that program, he's a really good friend of mine. Matter of fact, I'm going down I hang with him. He lives down the vineyard. I'll be down there this weekend probably. And you know, but when he runs it for the state, right? When he first met us, he didn't know people were doing this for 7 years before the state started. You know, he thought it was a brand new program, and people started to inform him, oh no, that was Gary and Harry, and they were doing that work. They've been doing that work for like 7 years. So, and we just transferred everything we had, like our intake forms, all of that stuff, that came from us. You know,
Well,
the trainings came from us.
I think
Oh,
it's really what I really want to just say is that how brilliant all these things are as it's the way you responded to having your life turned around out of the blue, and you get this opportunity now to build on this and look at it spread over the whole nation. I
The
think
whole country now.
yeah, I mean, I have to think that there's a lot of Garys out there, you know what I mean, in this sort of tribe all across
Yeah,
the country, harm reduction people
yeah,
who are in their states, global, like they're in different countries. And I mean, the drug epidemic really was peaking in the 80s. It really was. I don't know if it stopped peaking, but I mean, as far as my experiences, it was wild west out there. And it seems like the offshoot of that being people like you who had hit their bottom or hit a wall, or just something changed and they just knew it wasn't working anymore. It's either go or do something about it. That sort of fatality, fatal moment of truth, I guess it would be
yeah. I
kind of
mean,
what it
and you
was.
know, people fought this stuff. People fought harm reduction, like law enforcement. They fought us all the way. Legislators, they fought us. Like, no, no, we're not going to pass syringe exchange. Like syringe exchange in Mass, it took us like 20 years to get it legalized. But you
It's
know, as far as
stigma. The stigma's involved.
oh
That's
yeah,
what it is.
oh
Yeah.
this it's horrible. It's horrible. And like the Narcan, like when I started to do that stuff, you know, like I have friends like in Revere, like you know, that work for the fire department. I had the captain come down, Picarello, Gerald Picarello, and he said, Gary, how can we get that right? You know, I worked with him for about a year, and we finally got it on all the fire department's units in Revere. All the fire trucks carried it. All the rescue trucks carried it. They were the first fire department in the country to have Narcan on their
And
units.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
The first ones in the country. Now, everyone, all the police have it, fire departments have it, everyone has it, you know, but it just started with us doing it out in the street, you know,
I
like,
mean, this is probably a very amazing, one of the most amazing stories of inspiration coming from having dealt with really traumatic situation in your life that you came out of the blue, but now this made you a stronger person. I'm sure you've had to deal with other out of the blue events in your life. And I see
yeah,
that you've been prepared how to handle things. I would say if it's no fun when something bad happens, and it does happen, but I'm sure you met it with a much more of a ability to respond healthy, healthily to it.
yeah,
Rather than had you been the days before, in the days of yore, when before that big event happened, because it
yeah,
seems like there's a string. What is it? Is it a higher power that you were certainly think about it. You came from being pain and a laborer and then using drugs and alcohol to ease the pain and eating hooked. And eventually something happens. The next thing you know, you're in harm reduction, an army of people eventually out here in this world trying to bring down the beast of addiction that is killing so many people.
yeah, yeah.
And
And we just again, we just work on that the people that are like at risk of dying, at the risk of getting HIV and AIDS, hepatitis, infections, horrible infections now from like, you know, like some of the drugs they use, like xylazine and these other drugs that are out there that promote abscesses and bacterial infections. It's horrible. I mean, I've seen people, you know, like lose their limbs, you know, like I've literally seen so many people lose their friggin' limbs over this stuff. And so we try to reduce that. You know what? You reduce that in a person, right? And if you keep a person alive, they have an opportunity to change their lives, and this might have been the wake up call for them, like having an overdose, and they say, oh, I got to stop using drugs, like I don't know what it is for people, that's why I don't bother with that stuff. They'll get it from somebody else will come out and 12 step them. I'm just trying to keep them alive so that they can listen, they can see what's going on, they can like see that their life was almost ended. And
I think you're the first stepper. What's the
well, yeah,
first step,
it's we work with people who are, if you look at the stages of change, like in recovery, they have the stages of change, pre-contemplative, contemplative, action, all of that maintenance, all of that good stuff, right? We work with people who are in pre-contemplative stages of change. They don't want to change. They're
That's
not at that
interesting.
point yet.
Pre-contemplative
Yeah,
stages.
pre-contemplative,
In other words, they haven't contemplated change,
not yet.
not
And
even thought of it. I am
that's
good.
right.
I am good. Give me another bag. Give me another drink. Give me another smoke.
Well, it's
I'm
good that that
good.
group of people is visible. I think that's really cool that you're seeing those types of people and, taking them seriously and not judging that step.
Yeah, and it's hard not to judge. Believe me, like it's like shit. Like
Mm.
it's hard sometimes. You see people doing things that like are horrific. And oh, how can they do that? How can they rob these people? How can they do this? And
Yeah.
they're out there hurting people. They're not the most friendly people in the world. They're not the most fuzzy, warm and fuzzy people in the world. And we
They're
have
not
to,
just big teddy
like,
bears.
yeah, no, it's not like that. So we, like we have to hold back from that judgmental stuff and
Yeah.
and creating the stigma that is created by by society to keep that population where they are, to
Oh, I
keep the
know it.
homeless people out in Mass Ave,
Yep.
to just put a wall up around them. We just don't want to see them, like, and that's the way a lot of people think. And
Yeah,
what happens is like, they become dehumanized and they're
it's
easy
exactly
targets.
what happens. They become dehumanized. They're no longer
Yeah,
people. They
no,
call them things. Now they call them unhoused. They've come up with a nicer name than homeless, but it's
right,
still a dehumanizing thing.
right. Yeah.
So yeah, so when
And like, I'm, just again, I'm just like that person that like, I changed, but like, things still happen in my life too. So it's like, my life is going on. Like, I go through separations, I go through death, I go through all of that stuff too. And it's really difficult. But like you said earlier, like I've been prepared, not for everything that's hit me.
no, you
Like,
can't get yeah.
like, I mean, I was prepared when my wife passed away because she was ill. I knew she was ill, and she passed away in '93. Um, I had three kids. I had three, Jesus, one preteen and two other teens, like 14 and 15, like, and yeah, it was difficult. I had to raise these kids as I was, like doing this work too, and it was like, it's
Yeah.
hard. It was like, and then I've gone through some things. My kids are like now, like, geez, my daughter out in LA, she's 49, 50. I think she's 50 years old. Wait a minute. I think she's 50 years old. Like, that blows me away. She's
I can
50.
I can
I
hear
mean,
you.
what the hell happened? You
Yeah,
know?
time.
And, but things happen, like they grow, they have their own families, they do stuff. My youngest boy, he was going through depression and a breakup. He was a father of two, and he took his life. He died from suicide.
Oh
And
man.
that was one of the things. I wasn't prepared for that. But I knew what not to do. I knew not to go out and bury my feelings by using dope, by drinking, by doing all that stuff. Like somebody asked me, they said, "Hey, you want a Valium? You want a Valium? Like, one of those type drugs to, help you calm." I said, "No." I said, "I'm supposed to feel the way I'm feeling right now. I feel like my heart's being ripped out of me. I feel like empty. I'm supposed to feel like this, And these are the things, we don't plan for these things. We don't plan for them, but they happen. And, like, I think a lot of this work has prepared me for that, which sucks because I see a lot of people that die, like this, all the overdoses, like 2 years ago, 2,357 people in Massachusetts died. And then the year, like last year, I think there were like 40 less overdoses than the year before, but it's still more than 2,000, so, like you see death all the time, and it sucks. It
Yeah.
sucks. I'm not gonna, like, but like,
When it happens to you,
these
it's a
things
lot.
happen in our own lives like that, and then
Yeah.
I lost a grandson, like just 3 years ago,
A
2.5
grandson?
years ago,
Oh,
a
that's really
grandson,
sad.
20, 21 years old.
Was,
Horrible.
what happened? Did he have,
Yeah, I think it was a gun accident. I'm not sure. Like I don't know if he was playing with a gun or whatever, but he ended up getting shot and
die?
died.
Yeah. So those are
And
serious
like
things.
those are things that come like, and like, what? No, I'm not. It's not. I was never prepared for that. Like, I mean, I grieve it every single day. So like, like that's how I'm dealing with it today. But here it is, almost 3 years later, I'm still dealing with it. Like,
Well, I think I once
it's
heard,
hard.
grief is the price of love. And like you
Yeah,
said, I'm
yeah,
feeling these
yeah.
feelings. I'm
That's
feeling
right.
these feelings because I'm supposed to. And I think
That's
that's
right.
really, really all you can do with those feelings is feel them. And then
Yeah,
and we move on and you do the right thing with your life. And you're out here with the army of harm prevention people, and every
yeah,
day you're changing somebody's life. Anybody, I don't care, even if it's a little. You're using your experiences with your dealing with stuff, and then the out of the blue, and you're building on these things because in some way, I think whatever's in charge of the universe, I don't know who it is. Maybe some people call it God. I don't know. Maybe it's a higher power. Maybe it's or Gorgon. I don't know. But who's ever pulling the strings on this world, they seem to have a method to their madness. Like you got all that, you found this career almost to prepare you for what life was maybe going to throw at you. To like, it was not like in a vacuum. You were like, I don't know how these things happen. And that's what my podcast is about. What we're trying to find out is how these things happen that are seem like very disparate things. Like, who knew you'd be doing this drug, this career, but yet somehow it's other out of the blue things somehow are connected to it that somehow hold together like a narrative of some kind. I don't know what it is. Um, I don't know what, everybody has their own narrative to figure out. But I think in my life, the out of the blue things have all taught me something like learning from some big monster or something. It's like sometimes I think the out of the blue thing is like a gentle spirit of like Santa Claus or something. And he comes and he gives you beautiful things. And this is a beautiful out of the blue moment. Hey, enjoy. And then sometimes he comes and says, here's something you're gonna love,
mm,
and you get something like it blows you right off your seat. And then what is it? It's like a monster, but it's a good monster. I don't know. So it's like the out of the blue thing has our souls in mind. I think that's the ultimate thing. Because I think, Gary, I mean, I'm most impressed by um I really am impressed by how your soul is like so powerfully motivated to to help people, and you've been able to crack a huge, as far as I'm concerned, the hardest problem of all is to get through to people out there, on the streets, whether they're homeless, unhoused, or they're junkies with drug problems or anything. To get to those people, you found a way to do that. Like you were saying, just to get other junkies, other drug addicts, to go talk to them. It's almost the same principle of AA, really, if you think about it. Alcoholics help alcoholics.
yeah,
That's how it works. And
Yeah.
because they know how to talk the language. Yeah, man, I know that feeling with the got the bottle hidden into the thing over there, and you can't wait to drink. It's talking to you, you know. So
Yeah.
it's it's what you found that for drug stuff, and you've also applied it to the homeless, the unhoused. Sorry for anybody if I'm upsetting them. You know, that's a huge problem. It's a huge, huge problem. It's affecting everybody. I don't think I go a day really without thinking about how many people are still homeless. Like, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
whole thousands of people in Los Angeles and California. And think about honestly the diseases they're spreading in in that situation. Not that they mean to, but I'm sure it's not helping that general population. It's like, and plus, it seems like it would be enlightened self-interest for us all to be focusing on harm prevention. And that's basically what you're doing. I mean, we need to have like a whole, your army isn't big enough, as big as it
Oh no.
is. You know, we need to all be somewhat, everybody should do a year in harm prevention. It should be the new service. Instead of doing a year in the service,
And
I think they want to have be required to do 2 years military service. How about a year in harm prevention?
yeah, and like the harm reduction stuff, it's like
Harm reduction. I'm sorry.
you talk about it, and people get it a little bit. Like usually it's my family. Like I have a sister. She's a little, she's a little older than me, and she could never get it. Like she just couldn't get. How do you give needles to people? How do you do like how? Yeah, and she didn't like she didn't realize, but over the years she's changed a little, so she gets it. And she, like you can see people like, it's something, it's a common thing. Like, you know what, seatbelts are harm reduction. Like when we were growing up, we didn't have seatbelts in the car. We
Or
didn't have
baby
seatbelts.
seats. There wasn't
Yeah,
baby seats. I don't remember
no
them.
baby seats, nothing
Right.
like that. And then now we have seatbelts. There's all these different things, airbags, like in the car. That's harm reduction,
That's all.
reducing the consequences of drunk driving, of driving recklessly. Like yeah, with reducing harms, and that's all that it is. And as far as the harm reduction we do, it's to prevent consequences of drug use, consequences of working in the sex industry. Like like I had I got money from Elton John one time, like, and he's funded me for a while, where it was a young sex working groups that I'd run. But like I had to hire some women to do it, because like, I mean, I'm a guy and stuff, and it's just different, like like they can identify more. Um, but like, they create stuff like bad date sheets, like in Lynn, where I had my office. Um, the women out there, they work out in the street, and there'd be some real assholes out there that would like rob them, rape them, and do things like that, right? So what we do is have a bad date sheet, and we describe the person. If they had a car, describe the car, everything. You know, do everything. Just stay away from this person. You know, teach. And like talk about like teaming up with other women. So like you don't just go off when nobody knows where you go. And that's what's taught in that we try to reduce the consequences of their work.
Right.
Harm
Like
reduction.
reduce that, the sexual assaults, reduce the robberies, because they get robbed, and that's it. That's what harm reduction is, just
Yep.
reducing the consequences of some kind of behavior.
You know
um,
what? We're going to end with that because that's one thing you learned today's episode of Out of the Blue with Gary Langis is that when things happen from out of the blue, amazing things can happen in our lives, and we can start whole movements of people doing the right thing. And harm reduction, well, like Gary said, it seatbelts, airbags, that's all harm reduction. And so is helping people, finding a way to help those people in need of, syringes, because they're going to get them anyway. If they want it bad enough, they get it, and that's all drugs are. So why
yeah,
not give them a clean one so they don't get HIV or anything
Right.
worse. And then, and the exchange offers you a chance to talk to them and maybe get another person who's out there to say, hey, there's another way, there's another way we can go here. Not necessarily talk about, getting into program right away, but that's an eventuality but
Yeah. And people like, they hear it from their people and their family members. So they're gonna hear it from other people. They don't have to hear it from me.
exactly.
They're gonna
And,
hear it from
and
somebody else.
it's probably a broken record in their lives, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, from hearing that.
And like if I went that route, they'd see me walking down the street and say, I gotta stay away from this guy. I don't want to
Yeah,
see him.
right.
Yeah,
It
and we
wouldn't,
didn't get into like, there's a lot of things we do in harm reduction, like drug testing. With the drug supply that's on the street now, fentanyl, it's like it's not heroin, it's fentanyl. Like 90% of supposed heroin in Massachusetts is fentanyl now.
oh
That's a
my
big
God.
problem. All right, that's a really big problem. We're going toward the synthetic drugs, and they're really causing a lot of destruction, a lot of damage, and we have to find a way, and we right now our push on harm reduction is opening up safe consumption sites, places, overdose prevention centers where people can go inject their drug, and there's people there that can be observing them. If they overdose, it could be like dealt with right away. If
Right
they have
away.
like some kind of medical issue, like abscesses, wounds, or anything like that, there's staff are trained to do that stuff. We were all trained to do that stuff, like abscess care and all those things. And if you have a nurse on site, all the better. But like these are the things that we advocate for. It's not popular because people say, well, we're going to give them a place to shoot dope. Well, yeah, because like right now, they're in McDonald's, they're in Dunkin' Donuts, they're
Oh
in like
no,
somebody's
they're in
bathroom, they're
McDonald's
out behind,
bathroom.
yeah,
I
behind
had
the
someone
dumpster. You
that
don't
died
want
of
that
it.
to happen. You want to be able to watch them, and what's the big deal? Like, like this is the people we work with. They should be able to do their drug here. We'll watch them. We'll
I
watch
mean,
them,
that's right.
like,
There's people got to remember
so
that somebody's brother, somebody's sister, somebody's mother, somebody's aunt, somebody's, this, they're not just existing in a vacuum. We need
no,
to realize that, and
no, they didn't start out with a needle in their arm. You know what I mean?
no way, no way,
No,
no way.
no.
And before I say goodbye to everybody, this has been great, Gary, and I think this is a lot of really useful, inspirational information. But at the end of the episode and the outro stuff, we're going to post some stuff like suicide prevention, some things that we can direct people to if they need some to talk to somebody, some help with the drug use, if they have a family friend, a friend in a family or friend who's in trouble with drugs, some numbers for them to call. I'll get a few from you, Larry. Larry, I'm thinking
That's
of
all right.
Larry. I was watching Larry Sanders. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Remember him?
Oh yeah.
I went from Larry David to Larry Sanders. I'm watching the Larrys now, so I get Larry in the brain. But
Yeah, I get that all the time. My brother's Larry, I mean, we went to school, we were in the same class together, Larry and Gary. Like, how many times I
but
still
I'm
like at class
surprised. I'm
reunions.
really surprised that came out of me because I really haven't thought about Larry Sanders all day. But I'm probably going to watch him later. But anyway, I feel like we can put a lot of good things at the end of this. And I'll get in touch with you. You can give me a bunch of stuff we
Mhm.
can post, and really put it out there and
Yeah,
keep the ball rolling. I really think there's something really important going on with harm reduction. I think it's bigger than even anything right now going around. So the real war is against that, not against other countries, not against,
yeah.
even political parties, all that crap. Come on, man. Make the war be against that crap that's destroying the people that we on the streets, people
Really.
that, let that be the war.
You want the country to be better. You want it to be, make America great. Well, make it. It's right here within our power. All we have to do is just change our opinions on something. Like not be so judgmental or so easy to jump the gun and put labels on people. Like we have to just look at ourselves. That's it. Like look at ourselves, the way we treat people, and and just
That's it.
adjust that a little bit, you know?
And with that, I'm going to say thank you so much, Gary. That was wonderful. That's a great way to end. And to thank
Thank
you,
you.
Samantha, as usual. And
Thank you,
Yeah.
Gary, for sharing that really inspiring story. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank
And,
you, Vernon.
thank you, Gary. And I'll see you again on next episode of out of the we're out of the blue. That's right. I forgot who we were for a minute there. I was so wonderfully loving it. But thank you, everybody. Good night. Out of the Blue, the podcast, hosted by me, Vernon West, co-hosted by Samantha West, edited by Joe Gallo, music and logo by Vernon West III. Have an Out of the Blue story of your own you'd like to share? Reach us at info@outoftheblue-thepodcast.org. Subscribe to Out of the Blue on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and on our website, outoftheblue-thepodcast.org. You can also check us out on Patreon for exclusive content.